All right, so our second exercise for this week, our second pen tool exercise, again, it's under week 2, under assignment 5, pen tool exercises 2. It says shapes on it. And it's always the top file, and once you grab that and download it, we get this. So what's going on here is that we are working with shapes again to try and draw them with a pen tool, but unlike before where it told you exactly where to click and then drag to here and all that stuff, you're expected to get a little bit of this yourself. You're expected to figure a little bit of this out yourself. So what you still have the outline there, and you can still see where the anchor points go, right? Because you can see the dots along the line. And when necessary, you can see the handles. So it is telling you to an extent how to draw this. It's just being a little less explicit, kind of the next step up. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I'm going to make sure that there's no fill, because that gets in the way. And I'm actually going to draw this a little bit bigger than usual. So, for example, I can look at these top few and know that it's all straight lines. So there's not going to be any click and drag. It's all just going to be click, 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 click. And in particular, on this one, I can notice that everything is at 90 degrees. So I can click while holding shift and get perfect 90-degree angles. Or even 45-degree angles, because that's what these are too. So even if you don't know that just by looking at it, you can tell because as I move this around, it's snapping exactly to that same angle. So that's what this is about. This is about figuring out how to break down shapes. And then I'm going to make sure that closes at the end. There we go. So, and I could go in and fix that a little bit. I kind of drew it from too far away, so it's not quite lining up that nicely. But that's the general idea here. Same with the curved ones now. So I got to kind of click and then drag the handles a certain amount to get the right curve, right? So rather than those big blue and red dots, I'm kind of looking at these shapes and figuring it out a little bit for myself. And then I can hold down shift and we're done. Just to go over one that's a little bit more complicated. So I don't necessarily expect you to remember like holding down command while pulling a handle, there you don't need to draw it perfectly the first time. It's perfectly normal to kind of draw this out and maybe that one handle isn't in the right spot, but it's close and fix it later. So the previous assignment you just worked on had a lot of draw everything perfectly the first time, and here you can see that it's not quite there. Click and drag. There's a couple of places where you need to click once to get the point and then click again to get the handle. So that I'm doing right from the outset. But there's a lot of this that it's not. There we go, close it off. So that's not even close, right? There's a lot of that needs fixing, and so I can go into it now afterwards and I can shorten this handle and I can move that anchor point because I didn't even put the anchor point in the right spot. We can tilt that a little bit. We can shorten that handle, right? So I'm kind of going through and oh, this one's definitely what's off. There we go. Look how much better that is. So one thing you always want to get used to is simply the idea that you can change things after the fact, right? So you might draw something and it'll be close, and you'll ask me how is this, and I'll say, well, you can fix this up a little bit. X, Y, and Z you can fix up a little bit, and that doesn't mean you did it completely wrong, but you should get used to fixing things afterwards. Now here's one thing. I'm going to get rid of the underneath layer so we can see it. You can see there's a little like weird thing in the line, right? So maybe the other lines don't line up perfectly with the drawing, but it still looks like kind of a nicely drawn flame, even if it's not perfect. But there's a couple of places it gets a little weirdly flat right here, and there's a weird like straight and then curve, I don't know, bump in the line right there. And what's happening is probably two different things. If I click on it here, Maybe that's just a little bit the wrong angle. This one, however, you can see there's no handle coming out this way. So it's linear coming into here, and then it's curved coming out of here. Great when you want these pointed edges, but this is not a line where I want that. So how to get the handle back out? That's not how you do it. I just wanted to see what that would do, but what that's going to do is it's going to split this anchor point, and we don't want that. So if we come up here, you can see that there's a couple of settings even for anchor points. And one of them is these right here. So if you have an anchor point selected and you hover over this, it says convert selected anchor points to corner. I call them linear, corner, same thing. And if I do that, it looks like that. So now I have no handles. And if I click the other one, I get 2 handles, right? So a lot of times I will find myself having to just get rid of the old handles and like reset it and fix it from there. And frankly, that's not that big a deal. If the worst thing I have to do to make this work is, you know, redo this one handle, that's not a lot of redo, right? So get used to me saying, oh, it's close, but, you know, maybe fix it up a little bit.